In 2015, I had the privilege to travel to Rome to attend a conference on the diaconate. And as part of the conference, we took a trip to Assisi to immerse ourselves in the study of St. Francis. And it was particularly illuminating for me because St. Francis was a deacon. I learned much about St. Francis's humility, his love of the natural world, and his service to the poor. And certainly he's had a great and profound impact on our parish through the Franciscans over the years. We were able to visit many of the churches in and around Assisi, and you could almost feel St. Francis's presence. One of my favorite places was the Basilica of St. Clare, and I found myself gazing for some time at the large San Damiano cross over the altar. It was originally located in the rundown San Damiano church visited by St. Francis some 800 years ago. And I think what makes this cross so unique is because Jesus, unlike any other crosses, is upright and resolute. His eyes are open, staring back at us, drawing us in, calling us to a higher purpose. Although wounded, Jesus appears strong, and he's surrounded by witnesses to his crucifixion, the angels and the saints. Francis, gazing into the open eyes of Christ on this cross, which seemed to be staring back at him, asked, "Lord, what do you want me to do?" And a voice responded back, "Go and rebuild my church, which, as you see, is falling down." At first, Francis thought that this meant to physically repair the churches, which he did, stone by stone. But later, Francis came to understand that God had something much more important in mind, that he was being called for a special mission to rebuild the spiritual and human dimensions of the church through the power of Christ. A church which was in great disrepair during his time. A church that is in need of constant repair over the past 2,000-year history, including our own day and most especially post-pandemic. As I gazed and sat and looked into the eyes of Christ on the cross, I thought of the bishops and the priests at the Second Vatican Council. On the final day of the council, they declared that the mission of the church through the power of Christ is in service to humanity. That each of us, not just bishops and priests and deacons, but all the baptized have a mission. The young and the old, the married and single, women and men, laity, religious and ordained, are all called and sent forth as ambassadors and representatives of Christ himself. How Franciscan, how Christ-like. One day at Mass, St. Francis heard this very same gospel that was proclaimed today. And he was overwhelmed and moved with the compelling urgency in which Jesus expected his disciples to respond to his summons. Like the apostles who were to take no material items with them for their missionary journey, Francis opted for extreme poverty. Most of us are not called to such extremes. Rather, our gospel today invites you and me to trust in the Lord, to live our faith simply with a love for God's creation, and to be the face of Christ for those we meet on our life's journey. Similar to the apostles in our gospel, at the end of each Mass, each of us is sent on a mission through the words of the dismissal. Go forth, the Mass is ended, or in Latin, ite missa est. It's more than a simple dismissal to exit the church. The word Mass comes from the Latin word missa and is related to the word miso, or in English, mission. Ite missa est literally means go. She, meaning you, the church, has been sent. And we often use a more understandable English form of the dismissal, go in peace, glorifying the Lord by your life. But the meaning is the same. Christ is summoning us to go forth, not to distant lands or to be an itinerant preacher like Francis, but to rebuild our church in the 21st century in smaller ways. In our families, out on the sporting fields with our children, with our neighbors around the barbecue, with our co-workers at the water cooler, and by caring for the poor and marginalized and vulnerable in our society. And yes, this will be difficult. Yes, some will welcome Christ's message and some will not. Yes, we have a church that in many ways is in disrepair. And yes, we and the world have experienced the long, bitter, nightmare winter of COVID. The church, the body of Christ, you and I have endured much in the past 16 months. But notice what Jesus does tell the apostles to bring with them: sandals and a walking stick, items necessary for movement. You see, Christianity is intended to be on the move and to go forth on mission, building up the church, the body of Christ, stone by stone. St. Francis, for a time, was literally putting the stones back together in the churches around Assisi. And I'm sure that he probably sat down on one of them to rest each day from his hard work. You know, the hard work of surviving the last year of COVID has caused us to have to sit down as well, in many cases to stay at home. But like St. Francis, Christ invites each one of us to get up off the couch, our 21st century stones, to begin our work, clergy and laity together, in rebuilding our church and its ministries in a post-COVID world. Today, nourished by the Eucharist and with St. Francis as our model, we are called and sent to be the hands and feet of Jesus Christ. Let us put on our sandals and use our walking stick to steady our weight as we arise and we get up and we go forth to build up his church, proclaiming the gospel and transforming minds and hearts through our actions, using words only if necessary. This is our mission. This is what we're called and sent to do by Christ. God bless you.